Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordian Glory video. So today we're going to be taking a look at the big FAQ 2018 that came out on the 28th of September. So yeah, this is quite interesting. It's not, for me as a guard player, it's not quite as exciting as the big FAQ one, but I still think some really important and necessary changes have been made. Overall, guard haven't really been affected too much. There's a few things which have been changed, but generally speaking, I think we've come through this unscathed, which I know a lot of people were concerned that this was just going to be another guard nerf bat, because it seems to happen all the time. Yeah, every time there's an FAQ or some changes, guard get the raw end of the deal. But it seems like it was okay this time, so that's good, I suppose. So, just going through now, we'll just go through, I want to go through the big FAQ 2, and I want to go through what's gone through the official update version 1.2 of the codex. I want to go through official update version 1.3 of the rulebook, and then GW have got this big FAQ, the lowdown page, I want to have a look at as well. I've done a bit of looking into this, but I've purposely tried to go in almost a little blind so that I could just give some sort of genuine reactions, although I do have a general feeling for what's happened. So basically, big FAQ 2, finalised match play rules, Battle Brothers, that's the same as FAQ 1, that is now completed. Psychic Focus, again, that is now as is, it doesn't need any other changes. Targeting the character, that's not changed as far as I am aware. Any enemy character with wounds characters of less than 10 wounds characteristic, yeah, so that's fine. Tactical reserves has changed quite a bit from what I understand. Okay. Following feedback, we are changing Tactical Reserve beta match play rule proposed in the spring 2018 update, which was itself an update to an existing match play rule in the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook. The original wording in the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook restricted the number of units that could arrive during a game to half your army, but the intent was half of your army's strength. The first beta version of this rule clarified this to be half the power level of your army, but as match play games typically use points values in the power ratings, we have clarified that this should instead be half the points value of your army. Okay, so that's a big change. So I know a lot of people were doing it the power level way, but a lot of people were saying, oh, well, it should be the points value. However, I tended to actually find that if you were the kind of army that used a lot of reserves, cough, Gene Stealer cult, then there were ways you could manipulate the power level system to your advantage. So you could take 11-man neophyte hybrid squads, and that would make them worth the same power level as like 2 10-man units, or something similar. Now it is points level. That's gonna change quite significantly. Although overall, I don't think there's going to be many armies that are going to really significantly feel the pinch on this, and most people weren't really needing to deep strike their, or reserve half of their whole army, mostly. In terms of how it affects guard, well, if you're Talon and you're using a lot of reserves, reserve ambush stratagem might affect you that way. And if you're using Tempest as Scions, it might affect you a little bit in that way as well. But yeah, it mostly affects Gene Stealer Cult, this one, I find. So that'll be interesting to see how that comes across. Okay, so carrying on. Even when limited to half your army, the ability to arrive on the battlefield mid-game remains very powerful, enabling units that can do so to arrive where they will be most effective, whilst granting them immunity from attacks until they are on the battlefield. I just want to say right now that that's a really important point Games Workshop has made, and it's something that they have consistently ignored in previous editions of 40k. Like, I know it sounds weird, but they've previously, not really recognised that as a fact. Whereas now they've said it in writing, which is crazy for Games Workshop. If you're a long time Games Workshop follower, That is kind of crazy. They've just come out and said it and acknowledged, yeah, this is totally awesome. Previously, they've always said Deep Strike is this amazing thing because you can come in where you want, but actually no one really gave a shit about that with Deep Strike. Most people wanted to use Deep Strike to protect units. Armies that use a heavy proportion of reinforcement units continue to dominate on many gaming tables, which is why I felt it necessary to rein in the power of these abilities in spring 2018. However, our original beta rule, which limited the units that arrived as reinforcements during the first battle round to being set up within their deployment zone, received a lot of mixed feedback. Whilst it did help to rein in the power of some armies that used a heavy proportion of reinforcement units, it also raised a lot of questions from players regarding which units, abilities, powers and so on were affected. Some players felt it was unfair that all their units were restricted, whilst all their opponents' units were exempt. Perhaps the biggest criticism we received, though, was that the rules seemed to break many players' suspension of disbelief, as they could not understand the background reasons behind it. What was the rule representing on the battlefield? Okay, now my personal input on this is that is quite good that they've received that feedback and they've acknowledged it. The problem that this was actually, what it was doing is they were, and they've made it very good that they've acknowledged this, is some armies just did not give a shit that their units were having to be deployed in their own deployment zone turn 1. The best example of this is Dark Elder. Dark Elder Ravagers quite literally did not give a shit, did not care one iota that they had to start, that they could only deploy in the deployment zone. Because guess what? That's where they were going to go anyway, the long-range support units. They were only being put in Deep Strike reserves so that you couldn't turn 1 attack them. So it's not going to affect. So the original rule didn't actually affect that, but now this new rule, which we're about to see in a second, does affect that, because it means you basically get a reprieve from Ravager fire for an entire turn, which is important. It's really important. So, as a result, we are proposing a new version of this beta rule that's designed to rein in the power of reinforcement heavy armies, whilst also maintaining a more narrative theme. To that end, units that arrive as reinforcements must now wait until the second battle round to do so. They are reserves that arrive to reinforce your army mid-battle, not reinforce it before your opponents have a chance to move any of their own models. Okay, so basically, guys, long story short, if you have something in reserve, no matter how you try and swing it, no matter what you try and do to jimmy-jammy it, it ain't going to happen. If something is in reserve, or deploys as it were in reserve, however you want to shake it about, it ain't coming in until turn 2. That's it. End of discussion. So, things like Dark Elder Ravagers, which would just, the opponent wouldn't care if they got turn 1 or not. Now they're going to deep strike them into their deployment zone anyway. Now your opponent has to be like, well, my Ravagers, which are my long-range anti-tank unit, well, long-range anti-everything, but typically long-range anti-tank unit, do I really want to have them off the battlefield the entire time? Because let me tell you, as a guard player who, even though I love infantry, I also love tanks. Those Ravagers were absolute killer. Now, if the enemy wants to do the same thing, then they have to, if they want to deep strike him in, I got a whole turn of my tanks being effective. A whole turn. And the second thing is that if my opponent decides he wants maximum firepower from them from the beginning of the game, then guess what? I could seize. I could just win the roll-off. And then I get a chance to strike those Ravagers. And I'm using Ravagers as an example because they are like the top tier example of fire support units that would be being deep struck into their own deployment zones. So there you go. We also felt, because it was so different, that we should re-release this as a new beta match play rule, rather than enshrine it in the rules before the wider community has had a chance to provide adequate feedback. We have also removed the exemption that Gene Stealer cults had in the previous beta version of this rule. Rest assured this has been taken into account for Codex Gene Stealer cults, which is currently in development. Okay. Not going to sugarcoat this, guys. And many of you will probably be rejoicing this fact. But as someone who has Gene Stealer cult, my army just got shelved until the Codex comes out. That's it. Okay? Gene Stealer cult are the bottom tier army at the moment. People can say shit about Grey Knights. Fuck. At least they've got a Codex. Gene Stealer cults are the bottom tier army right now. They can do things. You have to levy every single advantage you have to be remotely competitive. And I've won some games. I've won a game with my Gene Stealer cult, and I've drawn a lot of games with my Gene Stealer cult, and I've lost a fair few, but I've got to this point now where I am consistently drawing my Gene Stealer cult, which is where I'm happy to be when I'm using an index army versus a frigging codex armies. But do you know what was really allowing me to keep competitive? It was the fact that I could turn one cult ambush in and tie up my enemy's units. That was the only thing that gave me a goddamn chance, because my units are overcosted, and they're fragile, and they're just not very good. So the only way I had a chance was to deny my enemy some of his firepower turn one. And so that's why I took 20 neophytes with shotguns, because the whole point was that they went in as the first wave when my opponent has his maximum firepower. They go in and they just tie everything up. They get strung out across the whole deployment zone. They charge as much as possible. They probably lose a few from Overwatch, but they tie up as many units as possible, and then turn to my, Gene Stealers come in ambush, and they hit at the same time as some of my rock grinders, and aberrants, and then turn 3, the third wave comes in with more Gene Stealers cult ambushing, and the neophytes with the patriarch, they make it into that point, and the enemy is just overwhelmed because they're never able to deal with, just as they deal with one threat, another one comes in, and it worked, and it was cinematic, and it showed these uprisings and these wave tactics, and it worked, and it was cool, and now it's gone. Because now I'm going to get absolutely blasted, assuming I'm going second, because I probably am a Gene Stealer cult because I've got lots of units. Assuming I'm going second, I'm going to get blasted by the enemy turn 1, and then turn 2, my turn 1 I can't do anything to stop it. Turn 2 they're going to blast me again. Whereas before, at least I was able to deny an enemy a part of their shooting. So yes, rest assured, this has been taken account for Gene Stealer cult. Whoop-de-fucking-do. All I want to say is, when is it coming out? And I'm not going to be able to, use my Gene Stealer cults for a while until that codex comes out. And they better fucking address it. Is all I'm saying. They better fucking address it, because I like my cult. Although if I have to, I will fucking sell my Gene Stealer cult army and buy an orc army. I'll just do it, because orcs are my first 40k army. They're my first love. And if you make me Games Workshop, I will go back to the orcs. I will do it. They were literally the army I had when I was like 5 to 10. So, let's take a look. Related errata. Codex Basins page 197. Strike from the shadows. Using the air. Basically, it's a deep strike now. Use a stratagem when you set up a Raven Guard infantry unit from your army during deployment at the start of your first battle round. Before the first step begins, you can move that unit. Oh no, it's not deep strike. Up to 9 inches, it cannot end this move within 90 of any models. Basically, it's like the Scout Sentinel move now. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, you can move a unit up to 9 inches. So you no longer get to just pop up and appear. It's part of the whole can't get too close to the enemy turn 1 malarkey. Same for forward operatives. For Alpha Legion, you get a free 9-inch move. It's cool, it's a 9-inch move and not like just a move like 6 inches. So it's nice, it's a 9-inch move. Still, I feel like that's a little bit. I feel like no one was really complaining about Raven Guard Space Marines. Even though Raven Guard Space Marines are -1 to hit over 12 inches, no one was really complaining about Strike from the Shadows. So I think that's a bit of a weird one to nerf, but I get why they've done it. Because they are trying to they're going with a theme for the whole deep striking thing, so fair enough. Again, the only thing that Chaos really had going for them, not the only thing, but one of the only things that Chaos had going for them on the competitive scene, at least, up until about 6 months ago, was, Cultist Bomb, 40 Cultists, Forward Operatives, boom, Alpha Legion, boom, get in there, but at the end of the day, they're only Cultists, so, even if you press against them, and Veterans of the Long War them, and everything, whatever, they weren't ever going to be, they did do good damage, but they would deal, I've always, as a guard player, I was always able to deal with them. So clandestine infiltration, strategies, 9-inch movement, whatever. Codex craft wheels, Illic Night Spear and ranges appear unbidden. So basically now again 9-inch move, index Xenos 1, the Incarnate Death. Change first sentence to read. Where do you set up the Incarnate? It can be set up in waiting rather than the battlefield. So there you go. Now they have that's that just bit with the Space Marines and the Chaos, and yeah, that they were and Styges as well. Like no one was really complaining about Raven Guard. No one was really complaining about Alpha Legion. No one was complaining about AdMech. So it's a bit annoying, but whatever. I mean, people were a bit. Yeah, I guess people were annoyed with Rangers for being a really good screen. That kind of makes sense. But no one's really complaining about these other three. But I guess I understand why they've done it. They've kept it universal. That's fine. They've homogenized it. We like that term on this channel. They've homogenized. They've standardized it. Fair enough. Right. We're also introducing the following 2 new beta match play rules: prepared positions and tactical restraint. As with our previous beta match play rules, do let us know what you think. Prepared positions is a stratagem that is available to the player who has the second turn in the game. Often taking the first turn gives a player a distinct advantage, enabling them to target and shoot their opponent's units before they can react. This stratagem gives the player who has the second turn a chance to better weather that storm. So taking a look at that. Use the strat. It's 2 command points. Use the stratagem at the start of the game, the first battle round, before the first turn begins, until the end of the first turn. All units from your army that are wholly within your deployment zone, other than Titanic units, receive the benefit of cover even while they are not entirely on or in a terrain feature. A unit that has already received the benefit of cover gains no additional benefit from the stratagem. And they had forgot to add this little bit at the end. And this is fucking incredible for the Guard. Because it is fucking incredible for the Guard. It's amazing. It's just great. Yes, it is. Okay, why is it great for the Guard? Okay, I'll tell you why. 1, we have boatloads of command points to spare. Okay, even if you're not doing command... I know command point farming has been changed. We're about to look at that in a second. But even if you weren't doing massive command point farming, I always went into my games, tournament games. I didn't take the command point farm. And I always had like 15 command points from having a brigade and Battleforged. And that was always enough. I never needed more than that. I had my staples, like, jury rigging and stuff like that. And, tactical inspiration, where you get the extra... Inspire tactics, where you get the extra order. I had my go-tos. That was awesome. That worked. So I always had, I had a couple of cheeky rerolls in there, no worries. Now... So for just 2 command points, something I don't even care about 2 command points as a Guard player. Everything in my army gets +1 to its save in my when I'm getting attacked from the first turn. That is incredible. It's absolutely fantastic. I can't Lehman Russ's 2+ save, 2+ save with toughness 8 and 12 wounds, just insane. It's just great. It is just fantastic. As a Guard player, there's almost no reason to not use this in a proper 2,000 point game. There's just no reason to not use it. Just use it every game. Don't even think about it. Don't even question it. Just do it, because even if it just saves you like 5 or 6 Guardsmen and like 4 or 5 runes on your tanks turn 1, even it's still done its job. It's still worth the 2 command points. It's totally worth it. Cannot say how good that is. It's just totally worth it. Someone pointed out to me on my Facebook, which I thought was really, really cool, that now Steel Legion are the ultimate turn 1 defensive army, because you have all your vehicles are going to be on a 2+ save, all of them. All the Armoured Sentinels, all the Chimeras, all the Lehman Russes, everything is on a 2+ save, and you ignore AP -1. Which means the only thing that's going to do any damage to you is proper anti-tank. Like, even, things, a lot of Space Marine players like taking Missile Launcher Devastators, because you got the flak missile thing, and Space Marine players have always had a bit of a thing with missile launchers. Yeah, last cans are great, but Devastators with missile launchers, they can generally get the job done. They're good. And it's like, well, now your missile launchers are only... I still get a 4+ save against them, which is incredible. Yeah, it's just, you know, you're just taking 16% less damage. It's just incredible. So, tactical restraint is the next big one. Basically, there are several warlord traits, relics, and abilities that give you a chance to gain or refund command points when you or your opponent either use a stratagem or spend command points. Use a stratagem in match play games. Each player can only gain or have refunded a total of 1 command point per battle round as a result of such rules, regardless of the source. Basically, guys, I will sum this up very quickly. You can, if you have Kurov's Aquila and Strategic Genius, then no matter how, in your turn, no matter how many command points you spend, you can only ever get 1 back. So if you spend 2 points on, if you spend a point on Inspired Tactics and you get it back, it's the first stratagem you use, you get it back, that's it. You get your 1 point back, and you can't, no matter how many more stratagems you use after that point, you can't, the command points go, you can't try and get them back. So that's it. Basically, in your turn, you can only ever regain 1 command point, and in your opponent's turn, because it's battle round, in your opponent's turn, you can only ever get 1 back as well. So it's fine. I mean, I don't tend to find it like a huge deal, because again, Guard were already rolling around in command points, so for us, it wasn't really a big deal. And I just, you know, I only ever tended to find that I was getting 1 or 2 command points back anyway, each turn. So for me, that doesn't make a difference. It's very much a big deal for armies that were relying on, like, the loyal 32. Very big deal for people who are relying on using, like, Guard Battalion with command point farm and just regaining everything. So that that's who's going to be, knights. Any Imperial soup army is going to be affected by this. One thing I have seen, and this would require a bit of input from you guys, what do you guys think? Is someone said, in match play, if you read it carefully, in match play games, each player can only gain and have refund a total of 1 command point per battle round. Okay. But what about before the game begins? That's not a battle round. So, rules as written, command point farm is still alive and kicking for armies like Custodes that want to use the Imperial Guard commander to regain loads of command points when they're playing things like Victor of the Blood games. So I think pre-game command point farming is still off the fucking chain, but I think during the game it's a lot better now. But I think for pure Guard players, we're not going to notice a big thing for that. That's one that's going to screw over top-tier competitive players more than ourselves. Prepared positions is a massive bonus for us. And if you think about it, all this stuff up here, it doesn't really affect us. That's fine. Tactical reserves affect us a bit. Talon units now, ambush is less good. Scions is less good. But generally, I think people were already waiting until turn 2 for those anyway. I did put out, before I forget this, I did put out that video a while ago saying if you want to use the Talon ambush correctly, what you do is you get a squadron of 3 Basilisks or Legion Russes, and you put them in ambush, and then turn 1 you bring them on. You can't do that anymore, but again, that's affecting people on all sides. So that's a fairly balanced change. So far we're pretty happy. So far, other people have been screwed more than the Guard, which is nice. It's happy for a change. Some command point changes have been made. Upon Wings of Fire has now been changed to 2 command points rather than 1 command point. That's to make it harder for people to get a turn 1 charge. The Oathbreaker guidance system, I think that's for when you're using those stupid missiles. That's been made more... all the Imperial Knight ones, which were brutally undercosted, are now 1 command point more, which is great. Agents of Vect is 4 command points, and it can't be used if there are no Cabal of the Blackheart units from your army on the battlefield. So, and cannot be used to affect stratagem use before the battle or during deployment. So Agents of Vect is just been boned, basically. Typically, especially with now command point farming being down the shitter. So typically, a Dark Elder player will only get one good use out of Agents of Vect. You'd have to spend 8 command points with very low chance of getting any back if you want to use it twice. So typically, the opponent will have to very carefully choose which agents, when he uses Agents of Vect, which is kind of good for Gene Stealer cults because they used to just Agents of Vect could be used to really screw with the cult ambush with Meticulous Uprising. They could just be like, I'm like, I'm going to get a 3 dice 3 rollable on my cult ambush. Nope, no you're not. You get 1 dice 3 rollable because of Agents of Vect. So yeah, that's good. Warp Surge, use stratagem at the start of any phase, set a demon unit from your army until the end of the phase. You cannot reroll saving throws for this unit, but its invulnerable saving improved by 1 to a maximum of 4+. So that's so you can't. I think that means you can't actually Warp Surge Magnus now. I don't know how. You can no longer get 3+ invuns, as far as how I understand it, and you can't re-roll the save. So I'm a little bit out of touch. I haven't faced demons recently, and I haven't faced Magnus recently. But from what I understand, this kind of says to me that, and this might be the case already, but demons used to be able to get, I remember with Magnus, you used to be able to get a 3+ invuln re-rolling 1s. It was actually really difficult to kill him. That seems like it's completely gone now. But I think that had already gone, so if any of you could explain what this is really doing, that would be great. But for me, that just seems like demon units just aren't going to be quite as stupidly tough as they used to be. So that's the big FAQ covered there. That's really, that's a lot of changes. That's a lot of changes. This video is already at 30 minutes. I might actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this video off here, guys, because I'm conscious the video is already 27 minutes long. Cut the video off here, guys, and then I'll do another video just covering the specific rulebook and Ashman Atam changes. I think that would be better. So, general impressions of this so far is it's okay. How, too long didn't listen. How much has this affected the guard? Okay. None of these things have affected us, as far as I can see. Okay. Tactical reserves has affected us in terms of Talon Ambush, and it has affected us in terms of Tempestus Scions, but it's not. But in terms of they were sort of quite niche things that have affected us. Overall, it's actually had a greater effect on other armies than it has on ourselves. So that's okay. That's good. It has massively affected Gene Stealer Cult, but who cares? I mean, I care, but most guard players don't. None of this stuff here really affects us, apart from the Eldar one. Any nerf to Eldar is always welcome, so there you go. Prepared positions is a massive buff to us, especially to Steel Legion, but for all guard it's a big deal. Tactical restraint, yes, it does affect the ultimate command point farm, but pure Imperial Guard armies, or mostly pure Imperial Guard armies, weren't that bothered by it anyway. So we had loads of command points. Most 2,000 point games, if you want to play a normal 2,000 point game as a guard, you could very easily fit in a brigade and a battalion and just have 20 command points, very, very easily. So it doesn't really, and we can still do that. We can still do that so easily. So now we can just get ourselves 20 command points, and boo-hoo, we don't get to refund 1 or 2 a turn. Who gives a shit? That's not affecting us. What I like about this is it's kind of screwing over people who were abusing the guard for Imperial Soup without screwing over the Imperial Guard themselves. I quite like that. For once, Games Workshop's done it right. And then here, it's just great. There's not a single change in this bit that is going to negatively affect the guard. I mean, demons can no longer get a 2+ invulnerable save. You know, Blood Angels could, Blood Angels, Smash Captains have been nerfed with that. Kirk's Imperial Knights, well, I've faced enough Knights to know that all those changes are just good. And Agents of Vect, which is just such a fucking annoying power, that's been screwed over as well. So overall, other factions have been screwed more than us, which is nice. So there we go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please leave lots of feedback. If I have missed anything, is there any major bits that I've just completely missed? Number one, I apologise. Number two, leave it in the comments, because what I'll do is I'll read all the comments. If there's anything I've missed, I'll address them in the part 2 video. And that way, this section of the video and the second section of the video can be like a complete and utter guide for Big FAQ 2 from an Imperial Guard point of view. Excellent. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.